Yeah, it's the same conditioner they use on show horses.
Huh, no shit. I feel like you would just use hair products for humans, though.
Well, if they had show humans, maybe I would, Cecil.
Touche.
Okay, lift up the other side. It looks crooked still.
Which side? We're on either side of it.
That side, the side that is down more.
Eli, we can't tell
does that
which
mean?
side is down more. We're standing right next to it.
Eli, what's going on?
Sorry, give me a second, Noah. I'm trying to get this straight. A little bit higher up on the right.
My right or your right? We're facing different
We have the
directions.
same right.
No.
Our hands.
Why are you trying to hang a huge poster of that email exchange with the dollop?
Oh, well, this week we're covering the Challenger disaster, so I
So
thought it'd be...
you wanted to remind us of our own personal disaster when the Dollop became patrons of our show and even reached out to see if we wanted to do an episode together, and then we found out that they had mistaken our show for a different show with a similar name?
Yeah, kinda. I just, I wanted to have an example of something getting shot down in flames.
The Challenger wasn't shot down.
Okay, agree to disagree.
Nope.
Up.
We never do that.
On your side.
Everybody want to take a quick sip of something before we start? That's what I'm doing. Hello and welcome to Citation Needed, podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're experts. Because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm Heath, and I'll be piloting this doomed craft to its tragic, fiery death. But I'm not alone. Joining me tonight are two men whose general misanthropy got them hate group listed by the SPLC, Cecil and Noah.
You go to one strip club with Majid Nawaz, you know?
I feel like as long as you stay in the meta category, it's not racist, though. As long as you make all of the different lists.
And also joining us are the internet's answer to a question nobody's willing to ask, Eli and Tom.
Ooh, is it, why don't we ever talk about parents whose kids get kidnapped being at fault?
No. What's that?
I'm just
like
saying,
if the world's worst monster was just winning Jeopardy every day.
All right, but before we get started, please give us money. You see, without money, Noah and I won't be able to pay for rent or food or the inevitable series of more and more invasive medical interventions we'll need to keep Noah's ashy body mostly vertical.
I'm sorry.
Who writes this shit? God.
So sorry.
And Tom wrote it. And Tom won't be able to pay for the low-rent community college educations for his massive brood.
Jesus Christ.
Because his penis is socially irresponsible. And, of course, Eli will end up doing something terrible for attention, and nobody at all wants to find out what that might be.
Spoiler alert, it's suicide.
Moving on. And Cecil is losing his job soon because he's a terrible worker.
Hey.
So
I do a
So
good job on the
please.
podcast.
So please give till it hurts. And stick around to the end of the show, and we'll tell you how. And with that out of the way, tell us, Cecil, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event are we going to be talking about today?
Well, today we'll be keeping up with the theme of general positivity that defines this program and telling you about the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster.
Okay, cheerful, excellent. And Tom, you allegedly read the article. Are you ready to challenge this disaster?
That was tasteless, Heath.
Yeah, I know it was. But you wrote that pun, so
Yeah,
you wrote
and it
a
was
few of them.
tasteless. So, like I
Thanks.
said,
Here.
well done me.
Okay. Thank you, I guess. Anyway, what was the Challenger disaster?
A national tragedy, Heath.
No. Trump is next week's episode.
Okay, a lesser national tragedy, Heath.
All right. Well, we might end up with 2 episodes in a row about explodey rockets. Apparently, we have a button for that. But getting back to the Challenger, please continue about the Challenger.
All right. The Space Shuttle Challenger launched on January the 28th, 1986. But that launch was soon followed by the explosion and disintegration of the space shuttle. Only 73 seconds or 2 full sex acts with foreplay.
Braggy, whatever. Go ahead.
After the space shuttle was launched, it broke. And breaking is really, really bad for space shuttles and astronauts, actually. Now, the launch of the Space Shuttle Challenger was originally slated for January the 22nd. But as is typical with air travel, there were delays. The launch was first delayed because the previous mission was running late, probably because it was waiting for its girlfriend to finish putting on her fucking makeup. The launch was delayed again because the, oh shit, we have to land in a hurry alternate site location was having bad weather, which is funny since all over the ocean was where it ultimately landed and where the weather was just fine.
God.
And it's a weak excuse. It's like one of the astronauts' moms was like, okay, Mikey just had a sandwich. He can't go all over the ocean for another hour. That's the rule.
Now, the flight was again delayed because some asshole stripped a bolt on a hatch thing, and after they were done sawing it off and repairing it, the winds had kicked up a bit, and the shuttle wasn't deemed safe enough to explode midair.
Again, with the weak excuse. Like, if a rocket that's supposed to fly into outer space can get derailed by a breeze, you're not done building yet. Don't make rockets.
Right. And I feel like after the third delay, you call it TKO, right? Like just, yeah, today's not our day. Let's go to Space Tuesday, everybody. It's not.
Now, when January 28th rolled around, this date of the actual launch, it was particularly cold with temperatures around 30 degrees Fahrenheit or -1 Celsius. Now, space shuttles, it turns out, are like penises, and they're generally less impressive in the cold.
Also explode after 73 seconds. There's a whole list of similarities, really.
It's not a race. It is a race, whatever it is.
My apologies, Lucinda. Many of the critical components of the shuttle were not rated for shrinkage, evidently, and particularly blowing out the O-rings would prove particularly troublesome.
Okay, hold on. I think we need to spend more time on the O-ring. That's a good policy.
Wait, I thought you were supposed to spend more time on the toggle switch. Hold on a second.
It's all a lie made up by Gloria Steinem to get you to hurt your jaw, best friend. Don't bother. Don't bother.
All right, well, let's play around that perimeter for a little bit,
I
Heath.
knew I showed up to these things pre-lubed for a reason. All right. 41 fucking episodes finally paying off.
So the space shuttle had 2 solid rocket boosters, and these boosters were made up of 7 sections each, and 6 pairs were joined in the big space shuttle factory thing using asbestos silica sealant stuff. But the remaining joints were connected in the field using O-rings. These seals were, like all O-rings, there to protect against hot burning gas. But after Mexican food or in extreme weather, all O-rings sometimes fail. Now, these O-rings are supposed to force the gas through the nozzle. I'm just going to pause there, actually.
You guys all picturing the rocket just like pulling up awkwardly in midair, just like standing there clenching. Like, don't stand near me. Don't stand near. Don't touch me. So I'm shivering. Stop.
Shivering.
I gotta say, the somber part of this, where 7 people die, isn't going to be aided by the shard analogy. I'm just going to toss that out early as a warning to anyone listening.
A study by McDonnell Douglas of the solid rocket boosters found that a safe abort was possible in most cases if there was a failure. Most, except if the O-rings failed to hold back their payload of hot gas. Now, burn through of hot gas past the O-ring would be really bad. According to the report, if burn through occurs adjacent to the liquid hydrogen and oxygen tanks or the orbiter, timely sensing may not be feasible and abort not possible. So in other words, if that shit leaks past your O-ring, you're going to shit your pants.
Wait, you only shit yourself if you give birth, not when you abort.
Depends on how many pills you snuck in her coffee.
Jesus.
Yeah, and where you put the coat hanger, I guess, too.
All right.
So-
Back to the death of 7 astronauts. Something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's go back to something tasteful, Tom. Yeah.
All right. So they knew that if the O-rings failed, the whole system was going to fail, and it was going to fail fast. And a failed system on a solid rocket booster is definitionally catastrophic. The pressure of the burning gases is supposed to smush the O-rings closed and keep everything tight and right.
If smush,
I know, it's
if the
technical.
word smush is in any rocket thing, that's a problem.
Dick Feynman's talking about the smushing agent. You know?
Yeah, right. The O-rings are supposed to be smushed closed and keep everything tight and right.
Tight and right. Tight and right. I love it.
But tests of the system performed in 1977 showed that the pressure actually had the strength to bend the metal parts away from each other, allowing hot gases to erode the O-ring.
Right, yeah, and then your wife sees it when she does laundry, and you're kind of embarrassed, but you're also kind of proud. It's weird. You don't know why. Awkward.
Exactly. So they knew the O-rings here were crazy critical, right? And if they were failed, everybody was screwed. And they also knew this for like 10 years, that the metal around the O-rings had the potential to bend and allow burning hot gases to erode these things. And an analysis of the O-rings from flights in 1980, 1984, and 1985 all showed significant problems with erosion of the O-rings. The O-ring problem was then somehow declared an acceptable risk, and NASA was persuaded that the O-ring problem was closed, despite it not actually being fixed at all.
Hey, you know who shouldn't have acceptable risks? The giant garbage can of money we call space exploration. Like,
Oh
why
my
don't we
God.
just assume moving forward they have to get 100 on every test because it's all extra credit.
Oh, Jesus.
You're dead to me, Eli. Dead to me.
Eli, you're deader to me. Is there any way to fix this O-ring problem, Dr. Kegel?
All right. Well, that all sounds like it's going to go really well. So we got a bad O-ring, whatever. I like to read on the toilet. The lighting is good, whatever. So bring us back to launch day.
All right. So remember, launch day is really cold, right? Abnormally cold. And the shuttle was not certified to launch in these temperatures. And that's not nothing. A McDonnell Douglas memo, which was, I mean, no kidding, it was seriously titled "Help," so that people would all see this and read it, right? It specifically warned that launching was a super bad idea in the cold because the O-rings might fail. When NASA contacted them about the possibility of a launch in the cold, the response was, and I quote, "We're only qualified to 40 degrees. What business does anyone even have thinking about 18 degrees? We're in a no man's land." Now, they predicted that a launch in the cold courted disaster. They called NASA directly, and they recommended that they don't explode.
Yeah.
They said, don't explode. NASA, no shit, responded to them by telling them that they lacked the authority to make recommendations unless they could provide a safe temperature, which I feel like they fucking had just said earlier, and it was 40.
Well, they have to provide the safe temperature that they can hear while they're plugging their ears and screaming "la la la." Right?
This comes back like, guys, we got it. It's going to explode. They're all going to die. But this shit hasn't seemed dangerous since 1970. We're not getting that heroic astronaut ass anymore. Sometimes you got to blow a couple motherfuckers up.
Okay, well, when the guys who built the thing are telling you, do not launch, it will explode, I feel like that's a pretty easy choice. Not rocket science. But before we get to the needless dying part, let's take a quick break for everyone's favorite random halftime segment, apropos of nothing. Okay, that about does it. We're all set for tomorrow.
Yep. Hey, Steve?
Yeah, Dave.
You ever wonder if this is... I don't know. I feel like this is going to sound stupid. I'm
No. Go ahead. Can't be too careful. Whatever it is.
Okay. Do you ever feel like this is a giant waste of money?
What?
Space exploration. Do you ever feel like it's a giant...
Okay. Do I, Steve Johnson of NASA, ever wonder if space exploration is a giant waste of money? Is that what you're asking me?
Right. It's just like, you know, don't people need food still? Right. And we're just
What?
like starving people. Like, couldn't we use this money on giving starving people food instead of...
You can care about more than one thing that feels unrelated.
I know, that's true. I just feel like as long as people don't have food, this $38 billion project should probably be on like the back burner.
The back burner. So going to the moon should have been on the back burner. That's what you're saying?
Yes, especially when we went to the moon. It should have been on the back burner.
Weather prediction, communications, earthquake monitoring.
Worthy endeavors, but like none of them required us to send literal guys to the literal moon, though, right?
Okay, you know what?
Hey guys, how we looking for tomorrow's launch, fellas?
Good. Everything seems all good to go.
Yeah, I guess.
You guys talking about what a big waste of money space exploration is?
Yeah, actually, we were.
Yes.
Well, we'll try not to think about it, guys. Velcro, you know?
Right. Yes. Thank you. Velcro.
Cool.
Dead to me.
Okay, well, that was a mess. Let's get back to the story. I believe when we left off, everyone was about to come to their senses, rub a little Vaseline on the O-ring, and let it get warmed up before attempting to shove a rocket right up in there. Do I have that right?
No, unfortunately you don't, Heath. See, a cold O-ring is not a safe O-ring, unfortunately.
Life lessons from Citation Needed, people.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we're about to learn that hot is also bad.
Yeah.
Got to be extra medium O-rings, temperature-wise, is the rule.
So the night before the disaster, NASA and engineers that were worried about the O-ring temperature issue got on a conference call. And the engineers warned that there was not enough data available to demonstrate that the O-rings would behave safely without being, warmed up a bit first. And by warmed up a bit, they mean like specifically to 54 degrees minimum. And remember, the day of launch, it's 30 degrees. The engineers recommended postponing the launch. The O-rings were deemed a criticality 1 piece, which basically meant that if they didn't work, everyone would die. There is no backup.
Oh, Jesus.
Hold on. I'm curious which pieces of space traveling device are not criticality 1. What? The rims? The spinners? What the fuck do they have on there that's not important?
Yeah.
What?
Now, I love this because NASA responded by, and no shit, they responded by yelling at the guy making the recommendation, saying, and this is a quote, "I am appalled at your recommendation. When do you want me to launch? Next April?" And I would add, when it's warm. And they argued that if the primary O-rings failed, the system could rely on the secondary O-rings. Now, this is an argument they're not even supposed to make or apply to any component designated criticality 1. There's no secondary component option. The recommendation was eventually just reversed, and it doesn't say why, but it sure as hell sounds like they were just pressured into it.
See, now when I get yelled at in a business meeting, we just don't buy a horse as a company.
Jesus, can you drop it, Eli?
Well, I can't ride it, so no.
So after hearing the launch was going to go ahead as planned, Bob Ebeling, an engineer who knew about space rocket stuff, he'd recommended postponing the flight that night. The night before, he told his wife, the Challenger is going to blow up.
And maybe it's just a coincidence, but there were 0 Jewish astronauts at work today. That is a fact. That's a true story. And rocket fuel does burn that hot. Yeah. It does.
But you just know, because we've all had that conversation with our wives, right? Where you're lying in bed and you're just like, oh, it's just, but he was like, the Challenger is going to blow up. It's a bad day. And she's like, ooh, try not to think about it. You'll stay up all night. That sounds bad, hun, but I have things in the morning. Okay, well, Challenger's going to blow up. Just throwing that out there. People aren't going to want to listen to podcasts forever, and the Challenger's going to blow up. I'm just throwing that out. I just needed to say it out loud, but you know, go ahead. You have brunch with your friends.
So the morning of the launch, it's even worse than they anticipated. Every goddamn thing was covered in ice. The coldest launch prior, the temperature was 54 degrees. And temperatures this day were between 28 and 30.
Fahrenheit. That's -2 to the rest of the world.
See, that's why I stay in America where it's warmer.
Yeah.
Fuck that
So-
-2.
Engineers at Rockwell Space Transportation Division, watching the preparations from their headquarters, were horrified when they saw the ice over everything. They thought the ice might break off and damage the thermal protection tiles, but this wasn't the Columbia.
Oh, Jesus.
That happens later. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler, it hits the spoiler. And then
So
Which is Criticality 2, by the way.
So they told their managers at the Cape that they could not support the launch. The Rockwell managers voiced this concern to NASA, but I guess in a way that NASA just said, yeah, fuck it. Let's light this bottle rocket and see what happens.
So, Tom, what did you do after you were head of NASA? We don't talk about our past.
it was
enough,
the early
guys.
2000s. It was airport security, wasn't it?
He built Action Park. I think he built Action Park.
Still my crowning achievement. So light this bottle rocket, they did. And analysis of the launch and the breakup gets pretty detailed, and it also gets extremely complicated. But the initial launch and disengagement from the platform went just fine. Not at all long into the flight, however, about 0.67 seconds, actually, footage reveals that a plume of gray smoke from the right solid rocket booster emerged and lasted for about 3 seconds.
Fart joke. Fart joke. I got it there first.
I'd love to have a fart that only lasted 3 seconds. I'm a full half a minute
And
now.
only killed 7 people. Yeah.
You ever fart so long you're just gonna I'm done. I'm gonna save some for later. I don't have time for this.
And it would have been so cool when you were in 3rd grade. They reversed. They fucked you on the ages. When you would have been able to
Bullshit,
impress
dude.
everybody with that. And now, yeah.
So the casing on the booster, after the rocket had been launched, the casing on the booster had ballooned under the stress, causing the metal parts, as predicted, to separate a little. This invited the hot gases, 5,000 degrees hot, to leak in between. This had happened during previous launches, but the O-ring in those launches did its job and it shifted, keeping the seal intact. In this case, however, the O-rings were cold, and thus they were hard, and they didn't shift during extrusion in time. And the hot gases damaged the rings. And by damage, what I really mean is they vaporized the rings.
Honestly, every detail of this project sounds like it was done by a fucking coyote with a wooden crate full of parts from Acme. Like,
I feel like Donald Trump appointed that O-ring to regulate business in our country. You know?
So that joint, the joint that was supposed to be sealed by the O-ring, was sealed temporarily by aluminum oxide. I don't really understand how that works at all. It doesn't say, and I wouldn't have understood it anyway. But then that was vaporized as well.
hold on. I feel like the word temporary should have tipped them off. And also, that should be a word that's not allowed for any rocket stuff, like smush. No temporary, no smush. No criticality. It's all one. It's not temporary. It's not smush.
So now what's happening is these gases are burning their way through the joint and entering the solid rocket booster. The flames penetrated into the liquid hydrogen tank, and then the aircraft shifted to the right as this happened. And a visible plume was now visible. And that's not good.
Well, appreciate that clarification, Tom, keeping us up to speed there with the editorials.
Editorializing for you guys. I got you. I want everyone to understand. So the right solid rocket booster pulled away from the strut that was holding it, and the space shuttle experienced a sudden lateral movement to the right about a half a second before it exploded. The last statement, and I love this, I shouldn't, but I do. The last statement recorded from the Challenger belonged to pilot Michael J. Smith, whose famous last words, would stir men's souls for generations.
See, that's why you gotta have those last words ready at a moment's notice. When I startle, I instantly scream my muffin recipe, just right out. Want to give something back.
It's true. He goes, soybeans and tears. Soybeans and tears. I thought that was going to be your biography title, but okay, muffin recipe. Got it.
Well, you just lost access to my vision board, so now you'll never know.
All right, so the aft dome of the liquid hydrogen tank failed. I don't know what aft is, but I presume it's a side. Propelling it into the liquid, I did that for you, Noah. Propelling it into the liquid oxygen tank. Now, the right solid rocket booster then rotated, striking the inner tank structure, and the whole damn thing just goes tits up from here. The tanks rupture, they ignite, they explode, and there's a massive fireball engulfing the whole goddamn thing, 48,000 feet in the air. The other solid rocket booster just keeps going. It's like, fuck it, I got work to do. Until they're remotely detonated by the range safety officer after yelling, pull!
Yeah.
Wow, that is a bad day for the range safety officer. Things were not going well. He just walks over to a chalkboard all huffy. He's like, okay, 0 days since a workplace inferno of death. God damn. He's all loud with the chalk, tapping it.
And all the people who wondered who was going to get Mike's office felt really bad about it.
No.
But still, who was going to get it? It would be rude to ask now. They're not just going to leave his shit sitting in there like a bereaved parent's establishing shot. It's a perfectly good office.
Is your apartment rent control? Just curious.
All right, now this is the part that is so extremely fucked up because the crew cabin survived the explosion and it continued its ascent for 25 seconds after the explosion. The crew cabin kept going. The explosion takes place at 48,000 feet. The crew cabin reaches an altitude of 65,000 feet. The wires and debris trailing from the cabin helped stabilize it in the air as it plunged back to Earth. But the wires and other shit are also not a parachute. Estimates on the forces to the robustly designed aluminum crew cabin indicated that the major injury to the crew was, at this point, unlikely to have occurred.
Oh, man. It turns out that there are a lot of times survived the explosion isn't a check in the win column. You know? God.
So this is fucked up. The crew was probably at this point still alive and possibly still conscious. 3 of the 4 personal egress air packs had been activated. And an analysis of the debris revealed that switches, which were, quote, protected with lever locks that required them to be pulled outward against a spring force before they could be moved to a new position, had been moved, indicating that the pilot, this is Mike Smith or whatever, the pilot had been trying to restore electrical power to the plummeting crew cabin.
Yeah. And the analysis of a cookie covered in cum revealed that they all died as winners.
Why is he trying to start the power back up? Well, we could see to play cards if I could get these fucking lights on. He's just like, all right, guys, all right. I spy something orange. Something orange, guys, come on.
Florida, license plate game.
How long the crew might have survived isn't clear, and it really depends on how long the cabin maintained pressure. Now, hopefully that fucking thing depressurized very rapidly, which would have knocked everyone the fuck out. But if not, it's possible that the crew was alive and conscious until the final moment when they were suddenly very much neither of those. Yeah. The crew cabin hit the ocean at 207 miles an hour, causing a G-force of about 200 G, which is beyond any hope of surviving. It's an impact force greater than almost any other possible vehicular accident. The crew would have been ripped from their seat restraints and killed instantly.
This is like, hey, ground control, Major Tom here. Funny story. We are sinking in a most peculiar way.
Major Tom, this is ground control. We know.
Now remember, the crew cabin continued its ascent for 25 seconds after the explosion. So there was some curiosity about whether or not escape was ever an option, but escape was never an option. Space shuttles don't have emergency ejection for the crew. And even after the Challenger disaster, NASA looked at the possibility and decided that it was too heavy, too impractical, and I love this, too unlikely to be of use. After this.
Well, because normally the people blow up with the spacecraft. I mean, typically that is how that goes.
Sure.
One time is not a pattern, guys. And it was also too costly.
They just need to make the crew cabin out of toothpicks, you know? And that way, when the one thing blows up, the rest of it just goes, you know? It's like a model.
Just put them in one of those squirrel suits and they can just fly down. It was also too costly to engineer and build. So really, once that thing went boom, there was no chance at survival here.
How much extra is a few parachutes? Seriously? It's a giant billion. What? Okay, whatever.
Yeah. That's an awkward meeting, right? They're like, so we decided we're just going to let you guys. That's a bad way to put it. What I mean is it's obviously never going to happen again. So what is the
Someone's
point?
like, follow-up question. If I board the rocket, is it still called accidental death when my wife hashes this out with the insurance company?
So, as a response to the disaster, the Rogers Commission was formed, and it basically found out what I've already told you. The goddamn thing never should have launched, and a lot of the right people knew it, and they said so very loudly. A key finding from the commission read, failures in communication resulted in a decision to launch 51L based on incomplete and sometimes misleading information, a conflict between engineering data and management judgments, and a NASA management structure that permitted internal flight safety problems to bypass key shuttle management. So basically,
We really made the grade. It's F. It's F.
so according to the Rogers Commission, this thing basically blew up because of bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Richard Feynman, theoretical physicist who was part of the committee, argued that it was the, quote, safety culture, end quote, of NASA that was the problem. And he noted, for a successful technology, reality must take precedence over public relations, for nature cannot be fooled.
But on the plus sign, here's a diagram of where all the pieces went. That's a smart joke. That's a pretty smart joke.
Billions and billions of pieces. I know it's the other nerd. I know the
And he
nerd.
didn't
The other nerd is the one that says
fact thing. He didn't
billions.
actually say billions and billions.
So after this happened, the Air Force was just like, no, we're not using space shuttles anymore. They're too explodey for our super classified Cold War shit. And they started using the Titan IV instead. Probably because, that shit's super expensive and it doesn't work real well when it's on fire.
Oh, you guys picturing the Air Force having that awkward breakup with your drug dealer conversation with all of NASA? Just like, oh, yeah, I'm just trying to cut back on space for now. Thanks, though, man. I'll hit you up if I ever need something to go to space. For sure. For sure. I'll call you. I told all my friends you have the best space.
Now, this was also an almost unbelievably televised disaster, with as much as 17% of America watching the disaster happen live. Media coverage of this thing was huge because a school teacher was among the crew. And I actually remember this personally. We watched it on TV live in class until it exploded, at which point the teacher just sort of like turned ashen and walked over and just click, turned off the TV. And we just stared there like a bunch of fucking like 7 or 8 year olds were actually silenced for a moment. And then I'm sure somebody farted or something and nobody cared because kids are horrible little garbage trolls.
All right, Tom, if you had to summarize what you've learned in one sentence, what would it be?
Don't have kids.
Yeah.
That's right. That's
Bingo.
a right question, right?
Bingo.
Right question.
All right. Great answer. So are you ready for the quiz?
For 73 seconds, yes.
Okay, I'll go first. Tom, I'm obviously wrong about space travel being useless, but each time I raise Noah's blood pressure, I get closer to being the king of my podcast. So, what is a better use for space exploration money? Is it A, lighting it on fire for homeless people to warm themselves?
It doesn't give off much heat.
B, stacking it up to make houses for people who need them?
They would blow down as soon as a wolf blew at them.
C, making them into money clothes for freezing children all over the world.
You'd need down.
Or D, and this is my favorite, giving it to churches because they, unlike spaceships, occasionally feed people.
Yeah, but spaceships sometimes feed the fishes, so
And the fishes feed the people. Thank you.
I'm going to go with E. These are all better uses for money than the space exploration.
Jesus
That is correct.
It is not. It is not. You messed up the whole thing. Now Eli wins technically because you're wrong. It's wrong.
Do you want to move up here so you could go right after Eli? Do you want to just
Yeah.
him
If you don't
immediately?
mind.
Yeah, I don't mind. I
If
don't
you
mind at
don't
all.
mind.
Not at all.
All right, Tom. This isn't your final question, but you know what? Since I'm rebutting Eli, I'm going to say it is anyway. Finally, Tom, peppered throughout this episode. Thank you. That's a callback to way back when. Eli has peppered this episode with Paleolithic Luddite bullshit denigrating the noble pursuit of space exploration.
Hurtful.
Why is he obviously? Why you bet your ass it is? Why is he obviously
You
wrong?
didn't know why that was hurtful. None of those
He said I was made out of
I was trying to
Luddite.
hide it from him. He might have thought it was a compliment.
And I don't eat paleo.
See,
That's mostly meat.
That was hurtful, Eli. The last bit was hurtful. All right. Anyway, why is he obviously wrong? Is it A, almost all the stuff is not on Earth and we use stuff? Is it B, Earth is infested with cockroaches and somebody fucked up the central heating? Is it C, without space exploration, we'd have never gotten to see Buzz Aldrin punch that moon landing nihilist?
Very true.
That's all
Very true.
I love that video
That's
so
very
much.
true.
I'm going to watch that right after we record.
Fucking mighty elderly man punching him in the face.
I'm going to watch it
was
now.
it D? By all means, well, I'll take a break.
It's like a Trump rally, but good. It's awesome.
Or was it D, that uniting the world behind the powers of science in the pursuit of the previously unachievable needs no justification?
I think it's, I don't know. I think there's an E too. Who's Eli?
Who's that guy that's in the show before the edit?
Oh, it's definitely the Buzz Aldrin punch. It's got to be.
It's obviously the Buzz Aldrin.
Watching
Well,
that
you know,
video right
normally
now.
you would have to be wrong to make the formula work, but this time I don't care. You are absolutely correct.
Yay.
All right. So, so this is the last question, and you're supposed to get it right, Tom.
Okay.
You did that on purpose,
I hope
Cecil.
I do a good job.
So after the disaster, NASA put up a bunch of motivational posters around their headquarters to raise morale. Which one was most popular? A, white lettering on a blue background. It just says, decide, commit, explode. B, a very nice pastoral scene with the words, you can't break atmosphere without making a few graves. C,
It's true.
simple handwriting on a black background. Be fearless in your pursuit of what sets you and your soul on fire. D, there was an image of the Grand Canyon with the words, a river cuts through rock not because of its power, but because of its terminal velocity. And finally, E, a kitten in a spacesuit with one claw on a burning space shuttle with the words, hang in there, baby. Friday's coming.
It's got to be the kitten. It's got to be the kitten. Can I get that?
It is right. No, I have to do it right because Noah was supposed to be.
I want
but
all I'm
Noah-
saying is I want that poster.
yeah.
I want that poster.
We'll make sure that's going to be an image for the show that people can. We'll make it a nice
want
big
it.
image that people could
I want that.
download.
All right. Well, the formula worked perfectly, and Noah is the winner.
And now he has to announce Cecil as next week's essayist, even though Cecil
And
made
Cecil
my
has
thing
to
wrong,
sound
so-
surprised
Yeah,
and
right.
mad.
No, it's weird. It's a weird thing we do. We do weird things.
All right. I'm going to toss it over to Sarah now for last week's Twitter answer and this week's Twitter question.
Last week's question was, what's your favorite failed North Korean landmark? And the answer came from Brian Ego on Twitter. Looking forward to more glorious tourist attractions. A stroll around the nuclear winter wonderland, a romantic cruise on the dictatorship, or just enjoying the view at the beauty despot. This week's question is, what other catastrophes have been caused by a blown O-ring? Just retweet or Facebook share this episode with your answer for a chance to be next week's winner. Back to you, Heath.
All right. Well, for Tom, Cecil, Noah, and Eli, I'm Heath. Thank you for hanging out with us today. We'll be back next week. And by then, whoever the fuck it was, I don't know. Somebody's going to be an expert on something else.
Cecil.
Between now
me.
and then, you can listen. It's Cecil. Great. It's Cecil. Okay. Between now and then, you can listen to Team Tom and Cecil, or Timo-sil on Cognitive Dissonance. Or you can hear some more of Team Noah, Eli, and Heath, or Hell Nino on The Skating Atheist, The Skeptocrat, and God Awful Movies. And if you'd like to help keep this show going, you can make a per-episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod, or give us a glowing review wherever you can. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, listen to past episodes, connect with us on social media, or take a look at the show notes, be sure to check out citationpod.com. We learned a lot about the moon.
We did learn a lot about the moon. That's true.
It's the moon.
It's the moon.
Velcro.
I hear nothing because you guys are dead to me.